message Doug and me. First of all, we hope everybody is healthy and safe wherever you may be. In terms of the day, we're going to do 3 or 4 things. We're going to have Doug give a kind of quick overview. I know we're all actively engaged and are keeping up both kind of through the virtual world of Global Chamber, but also active in various events and talking to Doug directly. Then we were hoping, Tarun, I think you and Doug have been talking through some of the strategy stuff, and we get your perspective. Lindsay, jump in. I don't know how much you have been able to engage with Doug and Tarun on that, but the two of you. Um, then we wanted to sort of just have a round robin really about what are we seeing in the world out there that over the next 3, 6, 12 months, maybe even further out, that could or should be reinforced as strategic priorities, for the chamber. And then, Doug, we'll go back to you and talk a little bit about the kind of business model, financial model for the Global Chamber, and where we are currently and where we're trying to go. So if that's okay, anybody have any suggestions, comments, revisions, additions? Does that sound reasonable? And try to keep it tight and get everybody on with their days. So Doug, over to you for the quick overview on all things Global Chamber, strategic highlights and issues emergent. Over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Sanjeev. First of all, thank you for your leadership, and I just full gratitude for all of you. This week we have a delegation coming in next week from India's 18 members of Global Chamber, and we have 5 days planned, and everything worked out well except for the Bay Area, and Sanjeev stepped up and is hosting for them for about 4 hours in the middle of the day with a tour at Stanford University. So just goes to the great person that you are and how well connected you are and how much you care about others, and including this case, really helping out. Really appreciate it. In terms of things that are going on, we're continuing our journey of growing our chapters around the world. As it turns out, we have on the website 525 chapters, and at this point we have 605. And so I've asked our marketing team to update that at the appropriate time, probably sometime in the next couple months, to share that we actually have that many chapters. 525 was always a number that was a little bit undercounted, because the dream, when we laid it all out, it was 535, and it turns out I wanted a better number, so 525 seemed to be a better number. 605 is a number that feels really good in terms of where we are today. We're doing a lot of work on the export side, like what we have really started out by doing. We did a very successful export league on the Los Angeles chapter. In foreign direct investment, we have a new partner called Crescendo Worldwide that is coming in from India and wants to partner with Global Chamber. So there's things going on the export side, things going on the foreign direct investment side that are really exciting. Sanjeev asked me to talk a little bit about the revenue model. I would say really up until now, most of our revenue has been through membership. Sometimes we've called it sponsorship, but to a large extent, it's largely been only one thing, and that is membership. And so one of the things that we talked about this group and for this year is to find ways to not only scale, but to diversify the revenue streams. And so part of the reason why we're putting new systems in right now is to be able to do that. So instead of just membership or membership sponsorship, actually have a real sponsorship where we're going after it. We haven't been able to really have the bandwidth to do that. We also have kind of scaled back in terms of any thought about revenue for events. We just haven't had the bandwidth for that, but we'll have that capability to pursue that going forward. I think more importantly, is the concept of commissionable or platform revenue. a revenue that either comes from ongoing trading that goes on within Global Chamber, or some sort of a success fee, which we've always had, but we've not been able to really manage very effectively. And so going forward, we've got parts of that platform that are being built and I think are going to be critical. So we're basically going to go from one revenue stream, membership, to membership and a real sponsorship, both for events and overall events, commission, and a platform. The platform is less clear, although Jim has been very instrumental in getting us to be thinking about having a deal-making platform and a partnership with a variety of technology firms that he's working on, and maybe he can explain more a little bit about that, how that is playing out. And then Lindsay has been thinking about a platform that she has created in the past, working with Colin, possibly adapting it to Global Chamber. That's still very much in its infancy stage, but that's definitely the direction we want to go. In terms of goals, and Sanjeev asked me to think about what some of the things are coming up for the next 3 to 6 months. The implementation of Globi, the AI tool for Global Chamber. We've been using it, but we haven't rolled it out yet. So we've got 2 new interns and Cesar dedicated to Globi, so that it actually has a very good plan and a rollout to the members. That's going to be a key success story, hopefully, for Global Chamber in the next 2 to 3 months. Continuing to get the system in place to be able to scale is a critical issue that needs to be completed in the next couple of weeks, and then for the rest of the year, begin to fully implement that. And then events. We have lots of events. Some of the more significant ones are the semiconductor industry has SemiCon West coming up in Phoenix. First time ever, October 7th through 10th. We have a pre-SemiCon West event that's going to then build into the 5th annual Semiconductor Summit in Phoenix. And so that's one of the more significant positive events that we've got coming up. Over the next 1 to 2 years, the 605 chapters need to be fully built out. We need to continue to broaden the revenues from one membership kind of concept to a variety of different streams, and then build out partners so that over the next year and a half, we've got the platform built solid enough to be able to go to the next level, which would, as Sanjeev has suggested, perhaps going out for a funding round of some sort, but that would be a 2027 consideration. So I think in terms of kind of wrapping up and what I see as really important that we'd love to get your thoughts and advice on, certainly number one is the overall strategy for Global Chamber. And I think the most that we've been able to do there is at least some initial conversation about doing it that I've had with Tarun. Thank you, Tarun, for your leadership and your desire to do that. Also, the activities with Lindsay that I'll let her explain a little bit more as well. The second area would be partners. We have a lot of potential partners. You have undoubtedly ideas for partners. We need to do more dedicated effort in those areas to bring on some solid, good partners going forward. We have good partners. We need bigger ones. We need more solid ones and more long-term ones. And then third, and final, I'd like to wrap up with the idea of the good to great idea. Not that at all, I don't think we're great, but I would like Global Chamber to be great. I think all of us want to be part of being great in our own lives and our own ventures and anything that we're involved with. It was instrumental or certainly very fun for me to reread Good to Great. And there were several thoughts that came out of that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. Certainly one is the basic hedgehog idea of the 3 different components. Being number one, deeply passionate about something, which we deeply are about global business and supporting global business in every way. The second aspect of being having a hedgehog strategy of being the best in the world. I think we have the possibility, a distant possibility of being best in the world to be able to fill in the gaps that versus what kind of exists in the world, which is a lot of segmented work that's going on everywhere in the world, both regionally and by market segment. Uh, there's a lot of work to be done there to be able to be best in the world, to be something over encompassing. And then the third area would be driving the economic engine. And I think we're the weakest there. We have passion, we have a vision to be the best in the world, but I don't think we've at all solved the driving the economic engine. And definitely, I think diversifying the revenue streams is a critical component to that. Any other ideas, absolutely, we're open to recognize and to process, and that's certainly one of the things I need to go through with Tarun and the rest of the team outside of this meeting. The other things about Good to Great that I want to leave you with is, as you may remember, one of the really key things, and the number one thing he talks about is who's on the bus, the people. It always starts with people. And one of the really pleasurable, good experiences for both Cesar and I think this last few months is to recognize that we have a third now team member, Jem Escultura, who's stepped up. She's very solid. She's very dedicated. She's worked beyond expectation, and she's become a third component to our leadership team that's been very critically important in the work that we're doing. She's just been promoted because of that. Number two is just the basic hedgehog idea that I talked through. Definitely want to be able to fill out the second piece, which is to be the best in the world. And the third piece, clearly, to be sustainable. How do we create an economic engine that we can feel really good about over the long term? Third area of Good to Great that I thought was really important was confronting brutal facts. I think sometimes, when you're passionate about something, you forget about looking at what's really happening, what's the reality. And I think it's allowed me to see a little bit more of that, but definitely open to recognizing that there's just facts in the world, both negative and positive, that we need to address. And I think from a positive standpoint, there's so much opportunity going on in the world. We're probably not anywhere near addressing some of those opportunities, and we need to. And then finally, it was a little bit helpful for me to go through and have that one chapter Jim Collins talked about of being somewhat forgiving about how long it takes to do things. He jokes about Einstein coming up with E equals MC squared taking 10 years. And, the guy's pretty smart, but it took him 10 years to do it. We now are celebrating 10 years. And so we've made a lot of progress. I'm disappointed that we haven't made more progress, but I also want to be real about it, is that what we're doing is way beyond, I think, any conceivable concept based on the funding and based on the resources that we have. And so recognizing going forward, I think we've got a great idea. We're very passionate. We've got to really nail the process. We've got to build out the revenue streams, and we've got to make an economic engine that's sustainable. And that's why you guys are here. Looking forward to any advice and thoughts. And Sanjeev, thank you for allowing me to lay some things out there on the table, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Doug, for your leadership and continued passion and purpose and energy and inspiration. I have one question, and then I want to open it up and particularly have others jump in, but particularly Tarun and Lindsay. And that is our question slash request. As you asked me to, and I'm really excited about the Indian delegation coming, generally to the United States and over here to the Bay Area. I was sharing with colleagues at Stanford about the Global Chamber, and I was kind of, the simple request, Doug, is I think you did this. Maybe we asked for it. I can't remember. Couldn't find it. Do we have a FAQs on the Global Chamber? Just like you said, we have 605 chapters, we have X thousand individual members, we have X hundred numbers of organization members, you know, the top 10 things about the Global Chamber. That would be a one pager, really
Cool.
easy, PDF, nice, you know, a couple of testimonials, three testimonials, whatever. I think that would be certainly for me. I don't, but Tarun, Lindsay,
Yeah.
James, welcome, Colin.
Yeah,
Great to see
we
you, my friend from the Philippines. I think something like that would be.
we've got that. So yeah. There's two. One is kind of like a summary, and then the other is we have a presentation that we can turn into a one pager that has that information. So happy to do that.
Something really nicely, you know, designed and so forth. Be great. Okay. All right,
Cool.
let's go around. Why don't we start with you, Tarun, because you've been actively involved with Doug on the sort of strategic side, and then we'll go around the virtual room. So, Tarun, over to you, my friend.
Thanks, Sanjeev. So before I go into the strategy update and my thoughts on it, followed by Lindsay because she's also involved in that as well. Just one comment, and Doug, going back to what you said, confronting brutal facts, and this is a positive fact. One of the things that we're not good at Global Chamber is communicating and celebrating success or milestones. You very casually and calmly went through the fact that we now have 605 chapters. I mean, we crossed the 600 threshold. I think that's a reason, one, to acknowledge and celebrate that success. And we should be communicating, yes. So we should be communicating that to our, to all the other chapters, and mentioning the fact that we've crossed another milestone, right? Because what it does is it now the existing members, and for a very long time we've been saying 525. If you think from that perspective, now you have 20% more networking opportunities just by virtue of that, right? So I just wanted to put that out, just in terms of that brutal fact, and it's a positive one. So here's, as I look to the future of Global Chambers, the vision remains centered on connecting leaders, connecting communities, and creating opportunities across borders, right? So our role is to simplify international business, helping companies of all sizes expand with confidence, build trusted relationships, and create this positive impact from a global perspective, right? So we're working on these economic engines, and we're working on the strategy. The strategy then needs to make that economic engine worthwhile for the members, right? Otherwise, why would anybody be part of Global Chamber? So I think the strategy, as we look at this next chapter of Global Chamber, is to place the members at the very heart of everything that we do, right? And what does that mean? It is, what that means is it's enhancing, the member benefits by whether it's curated, tailored insights, offering their industry specific connections, or leveraging technology, which, some of it we are even implementing at Global Chamber to deliver those resources that they need. It is about creating that personalized experience where the members then feel supported, they feel empowered so that they can eventually grow their business globally, right? So as I think about it, it's, you join Global Chamber not just for connections. To me, the dream space is you join Global Chamber because it gives you a competitive advantage. Okay, so those, to me, though, that is the overarching set of objectives. that would drive the strategy as we think about new business models, as we think about the strategy. We've started the work. Lindsay has a very good model where we can at least lay down where we are currently, take stock of things, and then start to think about what does the future look like. So my 2 cents, I'll hand it over to Lindsay at this point.
Thank you so much, Tarun. Over to you, Lindsay.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. And hello, Colin. How are you? So we had our call around the strategy side, and then everybody's been given the videos and so forth. And we're about to start designing out what the vision of the Global Chamber can look like. And it'll be an interesting time because we're going to look at where it is today, and with the 605 chapters, and then where do we want it to be in the future, and then be able to look back at where it is today to be able to design it out for tomorrow and be able to have a roadmap then of how to get there. And part of the model is looking at it top down versus bottom up. So why I go top down, why do I go to the future? So that you're not incrementally just building the business from the bottom up and going, oh, we should do this now, oh, we should do that now, and kind of reacting to things, but you're actually visioning out where the future sits. How does that adoption of AI and technology, but also purpose and impact, play a key role in that? And as AI drives more of the efficiency side, which sitting with Colin for 2 days, and we had some amazing mind-blowing moments. But the efficiency of what can now take place for the global chambers, and for people to, my language from our platform is to connect together, learn together, and then trade together to impact change in the world, is more prevalent now than it ever has been. And so the global chambers has a massive, massive opportunity. But also there's a market need for the global chambers, because there's all the businesses that are sat underneath. And I've just been at a conference with a few thousand businesses. And there's also a fear that's going on in the marketplace, because people are fearful of how do they stay in business? How do they scale up their business? How do they retain staff? How do they retain their own companies? And so there's an opportunity from a revenue side as well for Doug, if we play this right with a platform AI specific, to be able to help the businesses stay and scale their businesses for a new world, which is AI, but also to lead with impact and purpose. So my language again is how do you digital twin the planet? How do you be able to bring people together online, but trade with each other on and offline, so that you're no longer just living online or actually just living offline, but how do you combine the two? So there's, in my brain, I've got 2 clear pathways running for Doug. One side is, how do I understand the vision of what is there in Doug's mind and brain that we can leverage off and build out a purpose-led model, but build out the commercial business model underneath that. And when we do that, we're looking at different types of products. So I teach businesses and say people typically have one core product into one core channel, and Doug's is memberships driving into his business network, but he's got 605 of those chapters. So he doesn't need to really necessarily go and recruit anymore. He now needs to create margin growth. He needs to sell more stuff to the same people and be able to understand what their need is to be able to increase the sale. And that drives through 4 different layers. So an awareness product, a leverage product, a core product and a scale product. And if he drives an integrated revenue system that drives awareness, builds leverage through the client base, drives into a core, but not just one core product into one channel, and then also drives scale, he could accelerate the model 100 times actually. And particularly because of AI that's now there, the efficiency side and the tools to be able to make this happen far outweigh anything that would have happened even a year ago. So that's my one side with the strategy, and we're starting on that. And I'm hoping for the next call, we may be sitting in a place where we've got some form of an audit sheet where we're looking at that for the global chambers and understanding the brand, the product, the channel, the sales, the infrastructure, the resource, and so forth. And then my other hat goes into the space of scale for the global chambers, and sitting with Colin, obviously, I built a platform that enables you to connect, learn, and trade. And Colin, who's got the most incredible brain, as we all know, has looked at this over the last 2-3 days that we sat together, and how we could refactor the platform to be an AI-driven platform, so to be fully AI. And interestingly, I've wanted to do this, but was not able to, because it would have taken me probably 2 to 3 years to be able to do it. And now we're probably looking at 6 months. And so, that's the speed of technology. But the beauty of that is, because I've built out all the user journeys and the UXs and the programs and the and the technology, and Colin was literally able to pick up a section of the platform and learn and go, okay, I'm just going to program this for the next 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, I had the learn section of the platform. I had a section of learn that would have taken, I know, Colin, what, 2 months of development, or to be able to do that one section.
3 weeks.
So I wear my 2 hats from a strategic side, actually 3 hats: a strategic side, a platform enabled side, which is there, which we can refactor. And then the third layer is a revenue side, which I heard obviously from Doug. And to be honest, Doug has built the channel. Yes, you can go get another 100 chambers, 200 chambers. But the reality is, with what you're sat on now, there's a massive, massive leverage point that you can do through margin growth and through designing the proper integrated revenue system, which is what we'll do in the strategy. So they're my 3 hats: strategy, platform, and integrated revenue system. And from that, I think you'd see in the next even 3 months to be able to look at a plan. In the next 6 months, we could be looking at test. And 12 months from now, you would be looking at a very, very different global chambers, which would have taken 3 to 5 years in the old world. Does that help?
Yes, fantastic, Lindsay. And we can't wait to, hopefully for the next session.
That's what I
have
thought.
A document, a PowerPoint, whatever form it takes that we can dig into. And obviously that, some of the stuff is already starting to be rolled out. Even it doesn't have to wait for any approval. We're all just implementing it,
for sure.
Whatever
Yeah.
Doug and team love and want to get going, by all means. Let's get over to James and Colin, and then we'll open it up a bit. James, your thoughts, comments, suggestions, near term?
I would agree with everyone on this, to get margin growth, to scale, Tarun's strategic. So I just said, okay, what am I good at? Do what I'm good at, which was the real estate part around the world, and piggyback, right? Like as Lindsay said, leverage. So I'm already doing this, leveraging what everyone wants: referrals, leads. What is it in for me? This gets already, Doug, you've seen it already in action. Membership growth, right? Many people that show up to our real estate, even in that small segment beta test, are joining us. Once we implement it, and as everyone says, awareness and marketing, plug in, you start getting referrals, right? Leads. You can plug in that if you have one or you can work on one with credibility, obviously, because it's worse to send a referral if it backfires on you. We'd rather not send the referral. So really knowing our members, right? Knowing each other well. And that's where Colin with Globy and everything, I was very excited to get that up and running. So we do know, and we can say we can send referrals back and forth. This will get people, here's the free version to listen and learn, putting in the technology to actually send the referrals, but you got to be a member. Then we can really upscale where many of our, I would say our members are import, export, supply chain, economic development, that we could add to this technology or Globy information data, right? Because as we're scaling to build and buy and develop all around the world now, we are in an interesting world and things are moving all over the place. We can use this to understand the local market. And Doug, you were there when we had it with Jeff Pappas and with Cyril in India. They were like talking left and right, sharing data, sharing leads. Well, this could have been for Global Chamber, right? Not to middle it and manage it, but to send referrals and somehow be more of a part of it if one day we want to upscale and get more out of it, bigger ticket items. So one, in this little part of commercial real estate or real estate in general, letting people know more, we're here, letting people know you can join us, putting in the technology to say, we're sending leads and referral, that's your selfish interest. I want some leads, I need to pass some leads, I need to collect globally. You can then build on top of it with data, research, economic reports that many of the small but big players want to know. And I always say the best thing is you get to make some new friends. Worst comes to worst, you may not get any business, but like most people here, I will visit everyone to just make friends. You know, at a certain age, friendship is more important than money, right? Having people you can have like Colin, we have on that club that you had, you know, I had a good meal, a hamburger and everything. That was fun. So, you know, that's what I'm doing on the small step is bringing is in our world awareness, trying to get technology, let everyone have their own selfish or interests, right? Let's get leads, referrals, and then we can build on it. And we are starting to get members, but with more marketing, I know at least on this part that covers the entire world is more members, more ways that they can send referrals and leads, and then everyone strategically, what can we add on top of it? But we are going to piggyback on the technology I'm building, and there's one with a couple million eyeballs from China, which is what everyone wants. The other one in real estate has 800,000 members on our platform for data, residential mostly. And the other technology company is about 300,000, you know, that's mostly commercial specific, granted just North America, but some of them used to run Argus. So we are scaled globally. If we start building on top of this, working a good agreement, let's say, until maybe we can run it ourselves or build it ourselves, great. If not, let's just strike the best white label deal we can do and make the margins, right? Instead of trying to build tech ourselves, which is, everyone knows, unless it's in your core business, horrible mistake. Go rent it, just rent it, make a good deal and rent it. So that's where I'm at. And I think, Doug, having you and many others that join our meeting so far, right, people are joining because of it.
Just a question on this before we go to Colin. Thank you so much, James, for all the effort you're putting in. And Doug, clearly because of James and your and the team, real estate is a kind of a model sector that's moving forward. Is there 2 or 3 other ones that you'd say are the, in some sense, furthest along and or the hottest in terms of sectors, industries that the chamber is connecting people with to and with each other around the world?
I guess because of the semiconductor summit, that's got to be one of them, in terms of getting people together on some regular basis. It's a good question. I'm not sure we've entered around those. We certainly have a lot of activity in some other areas, but we don't really have a market segment centric approach. Ag and food and beverage is another area. Technology is an area. Healthcare, bioscience, is an area in terms of,
Yeah.
exportable foreign direct investment activity. There's a lot of activity going on. I'm not sure we've structured that very effectively yet, other than real estate. It's an opportunity.
So I guess one thing I just want to say, and then pass it over to Colin, is I think part of this is, we've talked about prioritization. And so one way to think about this, building on what Tarun, Lindsay, and James have shared, Doug, I think that cuts across from kind of vision to strategy to platform to revenue is, imagine there's three sectors, high growth global sectors that the chamber really focuses on. It doesn't mean it doesn't have all of the communities doing all the different sectors, but really those three sectors that have global growth potential, where we have lots of member interest, and really then driving those in terms of thought leadership, in terms of connections, and particularly in terms of partnerships from companies, which would see, the global, right? That they'd see the value proposition of, real estate, right, James? The Global Chamber is one of the go-to places for global real estate. And then we're going to be sponsors because this is going to be in our financial interest, material interest. So just no need to react to that. I just think that type of kind of strategic prioritization could be a nice way to get some traction on all the stuff that Tarun, Lindsay, and James have said so far.
Thank you.
Yeah. Colin, over to you, my friend. And then I want to get Cesar in for sure. Cesar, I know you want to jump in. Colin?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I literally walked in the door from 4 days in Singapore and Hong Kong. So yeah, Lindsay and I had an amazing time. Tremendous synergies. Her platform is incredible. We can refactor it in a matter of a few months, and I think can just be an incredible offering for Global Chamber from what I saw. So really interested in that. I think Sanjeev, you have a great question about the verticals and whatnot. I agree with Doug, semiconductors, but semiconductors is undergoing massive change right now, and that's my old industry. I worked for Philips Research, I worked for Motorola, I worked for semiconductors for 15 years, and it's undergoing not only because of the geopolitical problems and the whole supply chain, but also moving over to demand being driven by AI demand rather than PC demand, right? So yeah, that's a really interesting one. And then on the AI front, the only other thing I would add is, probably a lot of you read the book that Bill Gates wrote in 1999, Business at the Speed of Thought. And it kind of occurs to me that's worth a bit of a revisit, because the speed of thought is no longer the speed of human thought. I think one of the things that Lindsay saw for 2 solid days that people are underestimating with AI, it's not only its ability to reason well and to do all kinds of tasks, it's the speed at which it does it. And I think that's an area that as we get our minds around that Global Chamber could really help people understand that value proposition in terms of the speed of business being driven by AI. So yeah, I think that's basically my comments.
Thank you so much, Colin. Let's get over to Cesar. Cesar.
Hi, everyone. And Sanjeev, your words were really kind of eye-opening, because I was at a conference last week and I was telling someone about the Global Chamber, and the person was, yeah, no, that's really cool, but that's too broad. What are the areas that you focus, guys? I'm like, well, it's, I was going to the line of exporters, importers, like people doing international business, and they're like, well, yeah, but tell me some areas. And I jumped into the real estate, like that roundtable that James is managing, and Ellen, and I jump into that. We've been doing a lot of AI, a lot of real estate, and so that kept me thinking, because I know Doug and I've been fighting all the time because we want to get more importers, exporters, more like actual products, more of that line. But organically, the growth has been service, and specifically tech, AI, real estate. So to your point, Sanjeev, I think that's a really good comment, and that kept me thinking a lot, because I was trying to really not sell, but present the Global Chamber as a whole thing, and the person was saying, like, that's too broad. You need to tailor it down, and so I thought something definitely we need to consider, Doug.
Great. Doug, I have just a couple more comments. I want to welcome you back in. One is that as looking through the website again, one word which I know is value, which is so core to the unique value proposition of the chamber, and I know for you personally, for all of us, is trust. And right? And the chamber is built and networks are built, and particularly, and what we're talking about is trust and global trade, and so forth. And of course, we're at a big deficit right now, or increasing deficit of trust. So I'm hoping that the website, and other materials can just kind of reinforce that value proposition of building trust, enabling trust, trusted networks, trusted relationships, trust in the systems, so forth, that it's kind of a throughput. And I just think it's so critical. It's something we all believe in, and it's such a contribution and value add from the individual level to the organizational level to the macro level. That was one. The second is, again, on the theme of prioritization. I liked how you laid it, but I think following what Lindsay's doing with obviously Tarun and all of you, it would be great to say, okay, memberships, individual and organizational, how can we drive those and increase those numbers, both individual and organizational? Is there greater benefits, as Tarun was saying, better membership value that we can create to increase, and Lindsay said this too, to make the value proposition higher, therefore we could charge more, kind of deepen, market deepen, not just market widen. But in addition to, again, memberships, what are the 2 or 3 really, really focused ways that we can generate revenue? And what are we going to do to really go after those 2 or 3? As we have the broader 5, whatever year strategy, Lindsay and Tarun are helping you, whatever that time frame is. I'm a big fan of early wins and just get the machinery and energy going. So back to you, just a couple of thoughts to add to the great contributions from our team here, our advisory council. Over to you, Doug.
Really great comments. Trust, speed. I heard that, Colin, the competitive advantage that Lindsay talked about. Those are things that are just so critical for us to think about. I also, in the sector area, Cesar, I agree. I listed out actually, because that actually allowed me to think about it in a little bit of a different way. The real estate one, okay, that I think that's easy because Jim has laid that out. Let's just kind of laid it out on the table, and we can point to that, and we'll see how that lays out. I think the other one is manufacturing overall, and I think we need to understand and think about what are the mechanisms in the world for global manufacturing, and where does that come together, including semiconductor and advanced manufacturing and other manufacturing, because that's such a critical aspect of exporting products. A third area certainly is tech generally, but what does that really mean, and how do you break that down? And then that kind of the ag, food and beverage and water, and that whole segment of all those things vital for human consumption. I don't know how that happens globally in other places and how it comes together and if it makes sense to come together. And then healthcare, bio, life science, that whole area. I think there's groups and organizations that are centered around that. I know there are. Whether we really can play a significant role in that is a question mark. And so it's just something to think about in terms of just kind of confronting the brutal facts of there are some of these areas that are already being addressed, and some not so much. So we need to think about that. So thank you all for your comments and your thoughts. Just very enlightening, very hopeful, giving us a lot to think about. Cesar, any other comments that you want to make, or any other insights that you want to share?
I would allow
and then we'll go to Lindsay. Go ahead, Cesar.
Lindsay, go first. Yeah. No,
Okay.
Lindsay, go first.
Cesar, you go, and then I'll go after you.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think the all very valuable points. We are in a moment right now that we are implementing technology and Colin has been part of it, and we've been working with the CRM now. That has kind of taken a lot of time when it comes to follow up with members, and we want to have that automatically, and that's key. But I think at some point, one of the really good values of the Global Chamber is that humanity behind it. So yes, I want to move forward. It is we need to move forward with technology, but we need to keep that humanity, and that goes back to the trust. And in that conference I went, it was all about AI, but AI was playing a really big role, like everywhere nowadays. And many people would kind of agree on that. Like we need to, when everyone is doing the same, then what's going to be your competitive advantage? And in our case, I think that trust, that Doug Bruhnke as the leader and our team, is something that not every organization has, and so I see that as one of our advantages.
Great, thank you so much, Cesar. Lindsay, over to you, dear.
Well, my brain always goes into scaling up a company. So, and the three things that are extremely apparent for me is that obviously Doug is sat on the most enormous asset, which is the channel, which is 605 chapters in X amount of countries. And when I said about increasing the margin growth, there's a joining up of the supply chain. So, I mean, and I've written down a few different things, but on the one side, we worked in the pandemic with a lady called Julie King. She wasn't huge. She was in Australia. She brought 800 businesses onto the platform from the travel tourism sector. And we did it through partnerships. So it was Cato, the Australian tour operator, Hit Scotland, Scottish Enterprise, and each one brought, Hit Scotland brought Cato, the Australian tour operator, brought 370 businesses onto platform. Hit Scotland, another 220, and each one, and they paid for their businesses to scale up their companies. And obviously Julie King made a revenue share for every single business that came onto platform. And then what you're doing is, like I said, you're then building the customer journey. So you're no longer thinking about this as one product at a time. It's an integrated user journey. So you're going, oh, okay, they're coming on for a membership. Oh, they're going to want to get a learning program. Oh, they're going to want to trade. Oh, they're going to want to. And so in the customer journey, they're going to be buying different things. And they're also going to need different things from different people. So there might be different learning providers. There might be whoever it might be, and they're coming into the user journey. Now, AI enables you to do that way faster than I've been able to do that over the last 5 years, because it's a bit clunky without AI, because you're having to signpost everything, where now AI's taken that away. So what Doug has is the asset of the channel. What we now need to do is design the customer journey for basically the channel to buy more stuff, which actually isn't 3 years away anymore. It's 3 months, 6 months away. It's a very, very short period of time. That's number one. The second thing is campaigning. And something that Doug touched on in the last call around marketing and campaigning is one of the most important things that Doug could now do. Because if we put the people and the people brands at the front of this and campaign together and build a campaign, then you'll pull the market in through the brands, and you actually don't need, and this is not old school advertising, so I'm not talking about paid for ads. I'm talking about a movement and designing a campaign that people join. And so that's the second one that drives into the revenue system. And the third one, like I touched on before, was actually what we've done, which is a fund. And we've created a DAF. And then you link that with the campaign, and you're then able to raise money for the cause. So we design what Global Chamber's purpose is and what it stands for. And it's got this cause attached to it, which is, whatever it is that comes out of the session with Doug and Tarun and Cesar and so forth. But then you're linking that with people giving money for whether it's businesses to come through programs, whether it's to support businesses to scale up, whether it's to support emerging markets that are struggling, but it's going through the chamber network. So it's no longer thinking about building one product, it's thinking about the customer journey and designing the customer journey, which Colin will know very well, and then building the product sets in the journey. And that's what I want to do for the global chambers. And with the campaigning aspect alongside it, you'll attract the marketing.
Fantastic, Lindsay. Colin, one last.
Yeah, 30
comment.
seconds. 30 seconds.
No worries.
30
Please jump in. You
yeah.
know, absolutely.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Tying in what Doug said, and then Cesar, Doug, you said, you know, all these different industrial sectors. Cesar, you said it's about people and humans. I think Global Chamber, one of the things it does well and should continue to do is drive the conversations and the themes around conversations around the world. And I think an excellent opportunity for us is 5IR, right? Because the 4IR conversation has been about automation and data. And 5IR, for those of you who've looked into it, the whole focus of 5IR is human-centric goals, ethical consideration, and sustainability, right? How do we take AI and use it in a synergistic human AI way that's human-centric, human goal sustainability, right? And that's so aligned with Global Chamber's core values. So I think, and Doug, it touches every single industrial vertical, right? From semiconductor to biotech to everything. So I think, you know, making 5IR also kind of a conversational theme would be something we should look at doing.
Great. Tarun, any final thoughts from you or James before we go back to Doug for some wrap up and next steps?
All of you have used a GPS, I'm pretty sure, in your car, right? And the way GPS works is you put in your destination, right? And then if you've noticed that if you know, as soon as you're about to drive away and you put your destination and it's still calculating, the first thing it tells you is the next turn while it's still calculating, which is, to me, that destination is what our vision, mission, you know, what our strategy is going to be. But at the same time, that first step is that first milestone, Sanjeev, that you were talking about. So we do need to figure both out pretty quickly, because the way I look at it, this is our third meeting this year, and you know, we only have a third of the year left, and we're still in conversation. So to me, every day that goes by is a wasted opportunity, given what we are sitting on in terms of the asset that Global Chamber has. So the sooner, faster, quicker we get to it, figuring out, you know, what that ultimate objective is, and then having these milestones along the way, everybody will be happy.
Great. I completely agree, Tarun. I'm sure everyone does. James, any final thought before we get back to Doug and wrap up?
Yeah, as Tarun said, that's why I just said, you know, my little microcosm of the world, I can do this. I already have the infrastructure, so I'm just doing it. And hopefully, you know, we could paper it up, you know, Cesar, Doug, so everyone else can see as we're, let's say, a little beta test, a little piece of the greater whole. And then it's kind of strategy. I know it's not perfect, but nothing is when you start something up. So at least I want to do my little part of increasing membership, or says our talking points, right? It's good. You can point to it, right? That's tangible. They show up. Hopefully they get some good value in that little world. And then bigger picture, right? Whether it's semiconductors or different pieces, you could just remimic it, just thinking of the enterprise level, which everyone's thinking here. How does it all incorporate? How does it all scale? And the puzzle pieces fit together. But I'm just going to keep going with that little piece of ours and, you know, adding value, right? So there is some talking points and a good beta test for everyone.
See you soon, Tarun. Thank you, James. I think we're going to learn a lot from your real estate, you know, sort of push. So thank you, James, for leading that. Doug, final thoughts, because I know that people are going to have to jump off pretty soon. So
I agree. I think we're going to learn a lot from Jim and on the real estate side. sense of urgency. I feel it from Tarun. I feel it internally in many different ways. Got to get it done. I really appreciate all of your help and support. This has been a very great conversation. Thank you.
And no time like the present. Global and unstoppable. Go for it. Let's do it. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everybody. Lindsay,
Thank
everyone.
you. Have a
All
great
the best,
day.
everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
everyone.
great rest of your
Cheers.
day, evening.
Bye.